Hello, everyone around the world. Ryan here. I'm very pleased to come before you again today to share something that is, well, been very beneficial to myself and also to a great many other people that I know that kind of practice this principle in their lives. And it's something that I wanted to share with you today. And, if you seriously take a look at all the different philosophies and theologies and everything around the world, self-help programs, 12-step programs, psychology, relationship advice, meditation, all around the world since the beginning of time. The goal in every single one of them always seems to be the same thing. Now, we think of it in terms of, well, it's to find nirvana or to get to this one place of acceptance or to have a certain kind of understanding or, some goal that we think is a reward to it. But the entire process and the entire pattern of how to get to that reward, no matter how it's defined, how it's laid out, how it's revealed or shown to us, either through religion, spirituality, different practices, different belief systems, always seems to boil down to one principle itself, which I call the one-step program. And it's a very simple step, although it's extremely complicated in how it affects our lives. And the one-step program is simply this: stop playing God. And when we get into how to stop playing God, I could define it. I could say, here's conceptually how it's defined. But the reality is that for each and every single individual on earth, we all do this thing of playing God in our lives in different ways because it is very particular to our own lives. So in everything that I hope to share today, you have to filter that through your own life and see what areas that it actually is true with you. Because just to give a blanket definition of what it means to play God is actually a distraction from how it affects each and every one of our lives individually and personally. And that's the whole point. We play God in a lot of areas. Well, I do. And I think every human being I've ever known does. And it's the very reason why we're searching and looking for answers to our lives, and we have problems in our relationships and in our work life and in our functioning in the world and in our happiness and in our joy, because nothing's ever right and people are annoying and nobody's acting the way we want them to, and the world isn't doing what we think it should, and we're not getting enough out of life, and things aren't going our way, and all this other kind of stuff. And the more and more we try to, manage it or control it or figure out how to get around it or navigate it or deal with it, the more we are playing God. And then we, seek help and we try to get some answers, and we go join groups of things, and they tell us, well, acceptance is the answer, or humility is the answer, knowing the truth, or this is, follow these steps, do these things, all that stuff. And all of them are great. All of them work. But they all take us back to the same exact place where our real problem is that we're playing God. And this affects everybody. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be somebody who has any kind of extreme issues in your life. If you just look at all the places in your life that you have been uncomfortable, or what you have run from, or what you have needed to get away from, or what the decisions you made as to why you chose the paths you chose, you will invariably find that somewhere along the line you made a decision to play God and say, well, I'm not going to do this, or I'm not going to do that. I judge this as bad and wrong, and I judge that as bad and wrong, and I'm going to make sure that this happens in my life. Which seems perfectly normal, and it is what we're all going to do anyway as human beings. But it's later on in life when we start realizing that our goals, our achievements, the things that went on in our world still didn't really ultimately fulfill us. And then once again, we start looking into, well, maybe I need to go to church, or maybe I need to, become a monk, or maybe I need to study Buddhism, or maybe, and all of it once again takes us right back to the place. Even martial arts, and it's all about humility and control and all this stuff. We literally learn that we have to attach ourselves to the flow of life rather than constantly trying to make life flow the way we want, which ultimately, once again, leads us to the idea that we're playing God. And for a lot of us, this starts at a very young age, especially if we're wounded or hurt or abused or neglected or mistreated as children. We develop a jealousy, or we develop a, well, why do that kid's parents treat him nice? Why do my parents treat me badly? And we start looking at what's happening in our lives as these people are hurting us and what they're doing is wrong. And of course, that's all true. Many of us have been wounded and abused and hurt as children, or we're taught certain things which led us down a path of certain beliefs that this is the way life is supposed to be, or this is the way life is not supposed to be. And then we go on judging everybody else as wrong for not living the way we were taught we were supposed to live, once again playing God. But it can come from places that are completely psychologically understandable to all of us who have been through any kind of a trauma or anything like that as children. Now, not all of us have, of course, but a great many of us have. And in reality, the things the world teaches us is exactly to play God in the first place. So whether we know it or not, we are already set up on a path, even if we have a great childhood, of believing something that is ultimately going to cause detriment in our life later on. And we will wonder, if we haven't figured it out on our own, we will start to wonder what actually really mattered and what didn't. But when a child feels unloved, unseen, or treated as they're less than others, it develops an internalized shame, this idea that I'm not good enough, and therefore sets the stage for needing to play God, because now you have to compensate for the fact that you're not good enough. And you have to find ways to be good enough. And we start making decisions, things like, well, they don't like my singing, so I just won't sing anymore. And so I have this shame. And so I'll find something else where people do appreciate me. And so now I have to start controlling outcomes and get people to appreciate me to compensate for the fact that I don't feel like I'm good enough, even in just one area of my life. We make vows to ourselves to protect ourselves. Things like, well, I'll just never sing anymore because otherwise someone's going to laugh at me and mock me and then I'll be hurt. Which once again is playing God, because we're deciding that we should or shouldn't do something based on the outcomes that happen to us that we don't like, and we want to control those outcomes and control how other people respond to us, even at a very early age. And we're taught this in school. Like, this is what makes you a good student, and this is what makes you a bad student, and this is what makes you a good boy, and this is what makes you a bad boy or girl. And like I have said many times, we get the reward of being good and the punishment of being bad, so we start lying on top of it in order to receive a reward and avoid punishment. And so we're taught from a very young age to start playing God in our lives just to navigate life. And we have all these false control mechanisms that we created all on our own. And it could be very simple. Well, don't ask mom for a cookie, ask dad. Dad always says yes, mom doesn't. And, it seems innocent and fun and normal. And it's going to happen, like I said, when we're children, whether we grow up in a great, wonderful home or we grow up in an abusive home. But the dynamic itself, it comes from a place of whatever's going on or however things are or whoever we are is not good enough. And unless we get the cookie, uh, you know, we're sad, right? But it gives us a damaged recognition of our own worth because we get the cookie only if we achieve some goal that someone else set for us, rather than the fact that everybody loves cookies. It's like, oh yeah, I'll have a cookie with you. That's a great idea, son. Let's have a cookie together. And some parents are that way, and that's wonderful. But those same kids go to school and they're taught, well, to qualify for this, and you need to graduate all these things and you need to jump these hoops. And we know this is important for society, that we need these types of controls and stuff, and we need an education, and we need to learn the boundaries of the world in order to achieve and be able to earn a living and keep a roof over our head, because we live in economic systems, and we live in a physical reality that requires things like food, clothing, and shelter, and this is how we get them. So we have to learn these things. But how we identify with it is what becomes the issue, and where we start playing God in order to make sure we can protect those things. And it causes a great deal of problems, like I said, later on in life with our own feelings of self-worth, which will tend to create instability in relationships, instability in friendships, instability between family members, because we all have ideas of how everyone else should or shouldn't act, how they should be. And we can justify them with, well, it's peaceful, so what's wrong with that? But the problem is we ourselves are looking at someone else who maybe not be acting peaceful in the way we want them to, and we're judging them for not being peaceful. And so we're doing the very thing to them that was done to us. We were saying, you have to qualify for my acceptance of you to be the way I think that you should be, rather than what nature itself teaches us, is that we need to understand and accept the world around us, the nature around us, instead of trying to change it. We don't need a more docile bear in the woods simply because we don't like it. We need to learn how to accept the way a bear is, and then navigate through those conditions so that we don't get hurt or attacked by them in the wisest way possible, and still be able to enjoy the woods. But with people and with the world and society in which we live, we constantly have conflict of how it can be better, how it's not right, how it's sick, how we're getting screwed over, all those things may be true, but they're true because of people playing God, and those playing God who are, screwing people over or coming up with rules and laws which benefit only themselves and not those in the society with they're supposed to help and serve and protect. It's all playing God, right? They have an idea that they need to gain a certain amount of power, control, and money in order to fulfill their own level that they themselves created within themselves as an achievement for them to feel good enough. And it takes them off the path of being of service and on the path of selfishness and self-centeredness. So we overcompensate to try to prove our worth, and we do this in many ways, even things like needing respect from other people. If you had self-respect, you don't need anyone else's respect. If you are okay in yourself and feel stable and are self-accepting, knowing your limitations, knowing the things that you struggle with, and accepting them as, well, this is the stuff that I need to work on in my life, but you are okay. You're not saying, well, I'm not good enough. You're not shaming yourself. Well, when you're in that kind of position, you don't need anyone else's acceptance either. You actually accept them, and you probably accept them even more than you accept yourself, because, once again, it's a lifelong process to try to undo this idea of playing God to try, that we need to be better than we are. We should be better than we are. We have a goal that we need to meet in order to be okay with who we are. Um, the problem isn't having goals. The problem isn't having achievements that we want to do. The problem is how we shame ourselves if we don't. Oh, I failed this grade. I didn't pass my test. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not strong enough. I'm not fast enough. I'm not wise enough. And I need to try harder, and I need to do more, and I need to act better, and I need to focus more. And then other people get their opinions in, and we have parents and relatives and friends and wives and husbands and say, well, you're focusing on the wrong thing, and you're doing this, that, and they're all trying to tell us what we should or shouldn't do because they're playing God too and believing they know what's better for you than you would know for yourself. And the whole thing leads to a place where, once again, you're just not good enough. And that has to be addressed. And it's a lifelong process to address that in every area of our lives. In relationships, we will tell ourselves, well, I want a man or a woman who acts this way and this way and this way, does this, and for me. And we have these conditions that we rest upon another human being that they need to meet. Now, a lot of these things, of course, are necessary. Some are built in biologically, like you're going to find the healthiest person you can, the strongest person you can, the most intelligent person you can to like have offspring with, because you want your kids to be healthy, strong, smart, and intelligent, all those kind of things. So it's biologically built in. The problem is nobody can continually live up to those standards. We get older, we age, we change. Our opinions change. Our experience changes. And so even if you find somebody who is exactly who you want them to be, 10 years later, they're not the same person they were. And suddenly you're like, well, why aren't they treating me the way they used to? Or why aren't they this way? Or why aren't they that way? Or how come, and we start thinking that something went wrong, or they're wrong, or they broke their promises, or they did this, or they did that. And, we find ourselves in counselor sessions saying we're having these relationship issues because they just don't love me the way they used to, and they need to love me the way I want them to, because this is the way I have decided they should be to me, and they're not being that way, or he doesn't listen to me, and he doesn't do that, And we're deciding that another person isn't qualifying for our acceptance of them. And we ourselves are promoting shame in another human being, that unless they meet the standards we have set, we're not going to love them back in the same way that we used to. And we justify it in many different ways. And of course, once again, it feels like it makes sense. It sounds like it makes sense. But the bottom line is both people in the relationship are unhappy. And, when we first met, we just accepted people the way that we discovered who they were. And we went, wow, I really like this about them. I like this, I like this, I like this. We have fun together. And it was the lack of shame and judgment about them that allowed them to feel comfortable and close and desirous of us, or open up to us about themselves and their frailties and trust and all this. And then as time goes on, we start noticing things about them that, oh, well, I don't really like that, or I don't really like that. And we start judging them, and we start playing God and saying this is good about them and this is bad about them. And suddenly they don't feel the same connection. They can't trust us as much because we're somehow now an authority in their life about whether they're good enough or not, or behaving properly or not, or loving us the way we expect them to, and we confront them. Now, I'm not talking about, of course, there are problems. There are times people go through dark times and whatnot. But if we love somebody and accept them, we are there to help them through the hard times. That's the whole point to a relationship. Two people together are stronger than one person alone. And there are times one person in the relationship is struggling, or the other person in the relationship is struggling, or even both. But even when both are struggling, they have each other and they can hold each other and they can accept each other and they can say, man, we're both going through a hard thing. Thank God we have each other. Let's get through this stuff together. And remember that the hope that they have with each other, even if they're struggling in the relationship itself, we can still go back to when we barely knew them and remember that in the beginning, we saw all these beautiful things about them. And those beautiful things about them are still there. It's still a part of them. It's still a part of who they are. We somehow just stopped looking at that and started looking at how they're different, how they're not the way we thought they should be. They're not doing the things we think. We don't like the fact that they act this way or want a different job or a different career because it causes us to be afraid. It shakes up our insecurity, and we don't like being insecure, so therefore somebody's doing wrong. And these are the things that we've been taught in life. We've been taught in life that if you don't like how something feels, somebody else is to blame. So not only are we playing God, but we are completely blinding ourselves to actually the solution to our problem. And we ourselves are a victim of our own thinking and our own belief system that we think was the right thing for us to do in the first place, because it was simply to protect ourselves from being hurt and wounded as we were when we were young, or to rebel against what we decided we didn't agree with when we were young. For instance, if we grew up in, and I've spoken about this before, like a controlling religion, and we say, oh, you know what? I'm not going to be a part of something where a guy from a pulpit gets to tell everybody what they have to do in order to qualify for God's love, or I just think that's ridiculous and all this other kind of stuff. And anybody who does that is abusive and wrong. And of course, that may be all true. But in our rebellion, we leave and we then look at anybody who ever says anything that seems somewhat controlling, and we then get in their face and we try to control their lives, and we tell them how they're wrong for not being the way we think they should be, for being the way that we see is the opposite of something that is healthy. And we could be correct, but we're still doing the same damage of the person who first told us how we have to be in order to qualify. We are now telling somebody else how they have to be in order to qualify for our acceptance. And we have become God. And we think it's to protect ourselves when actually we're doing more damage than what happened to us, because we may have had to listen to one person in one church or one congregation do this to us over a period of time in our youth, but then we spend the entirety of the rest of our lives doing it back to everyone. Well, anybody who goes to church is just stupid. And we alienate everybody who goes to church as though they're stupid. Or anybody who believes there's anything like a God is just, and we come up, they're dumb, right? But we come up with this idea that there can't be a God because a man made a mistake, right? If I know music, and if I see a guitar player on stage mess up a song, it happens. I've done it myself many times. Just totally mess up the song and it doesn't. I don't blame the song. And I don't blame the people who wrote the song. It's the guy who was performing it who messed it up. And it's the same common sense. We have to ask ourselves, why can't we apply this to every other area in our lives? But, especially with spiritual matters. People are, Buddhism's evil, or this is bad. We get these ideas because someone else told us. And we wanted the reward, and we wanted to avoid the punishment. And we ourselves may even have agreed that way is better, and it's safer, but we never knew to check our motives as to why we thought this. We just accepted it as, well, right is right and wrong is wrong. And then we go around wondering why we're constantly in conflict with everybody all the time. And why isn't anybody just like me? And why don't they understand that, life would be so much easier if they just were like me? And if people were just like me and accepted me the way I demand they do, life would be great. And all we're doing is playing God. And we're doing more damage to everyone else than was ever done to us. Um, Relationships, another area. We go through a bad relationship with somebody, and maybe they're terribly sick people, and then we just go, oh well, all women are just insane. And we go into every other relationship or even friendships with women, and in the back of our head, we're just judging them about how, they can't be trusted, they're insane, and they're nuts, and they're not worth my time, and they're all, we have these ideas, or men, right? And we live in a society today that for some reason thinks it's okay to just continually bash men. And I'll tell you, it only comes from a lack of security in self. Nobody needs to bash anybody if they're secure. Only in a position of inferiority needs to point out inferiority in others. And the people around the world who have kind of awoken more to their spirit rather than to their flesh see it very, very clearly that anytime somebody says, oh, men are just this and men are just that, oh, it's a terrible feeling for them, because we know it comes from a place of deep, deep insecurity, deep fear. And it has to be overcompensated. And they have to get this message out about how bad everyone else is and how good they are, because they're not good enough to themselves. And they'll never be good enough to themselves because they're still dictating how things should be in order for them to be good enough. And which is precisely the mechanism and the pattern that got them to not be good enough in the first place, because somebody did that to them. I know people who got stolen from before, and now they steal from others. And they steal from others all the time. They're going to make sure they do not miss out on what they want, because somebody made them miss out on something they wanted once. And we don't see that we ourselves become far worse than those who harmed us in the first place. And of course, there are repercussions. What they did in the first place wasn't right. But they did it for the same reasons we're doing it, because somebody did it to them, and they're playing God, and they're going to make sure that when you grow up or when you're young, you're going to obey them and listen to them and do everything they say, or you will be punished, because they cannot tolerate anything outside of their control. And the only reason they need control is because of fear. No one needs to control anything when they're not afraid. Every measure of control on earth, other than that which is required for a society to, and those are laws, right? Like a speed limit law, safety laws, it's wisdom to protect life and to enhance life, make sure everything works out the way it should, all that other kind of stuff, and you'll be okay and you can do stuff. I'm not talking about laws, I'm talking about control. And there are laws built simply just to control you. You will act this way, and I'm not talking about laws that protect people. We have to have laws about theft, murder, abuse. We have to have laws for those things, because the people who do those things, once again, are playing God, and to such a degree that they're willing to destroy the lives of others in order to do so. So and they're going to control what's going on. Look at the pathology of anybody who's a severe criminal. It is all about control. They need control because they don't have any. They need power because they don't have any. This makes them feel powerful. It makes them feel in control. And the same exact principle is true even in the lives of the most innocent of us on earth. Are places in our life where we have made decisions based on a lack of power in ourselves because we believe it isn't good enough or we're not good enough. So we try to exert power in order to control the outcomes of a scenario. And oftentimes, it truly feels like it's absolutely the healthy and right thing to do. The problem is things don't always work out, and then we get back to, well, somebody must have harmed me. Somebody got in the way. Somebody did something wrong. Somebody failed me. I failed. We still end up with the result of somehow it's not good enough or we're not good enough, instead of just trying it again or doing it again or realizing, oh, okay, well, the wise person realizes they don't know, right? So if we do something and it doesn't work out, okay, well, let's try it a different way because we don't know. We don't know which way we should do it. We're going to keep experimenting. Scientists, people, there are people who figured this out. They just keep trying it different ways until it works. And it's not about the performance. It's not about, the outcome has to be what they need it to be. Otherwise, they're bad. But most of us, actually, I'm going to say every human being on earth has an idea in their head that they have to achieve something, a certain something. Otherwise, they're not good enough. Well, I don't have any friends. I don't have this. I don't have that. We have long lists of the things that we don't have. We have long lists of how we are victims, whether they're true or not. We focus on the lists as these are the reasons why nothing is enough. The problem is we have this idea that things are not enough. It doesn't mean terrible things aren't going to terrible things are going to happen to us. We are going to have events happen where we are wounded, we are hurt. And the problem is that now we develop a fear. Well, if I ever do that again, it'll just hurt again. I won't sing again because I don't want to be. And we make decisions based on fear in order to control an outcome. And we stop giving back to the world. We stop being who we are, someone who enjoys singing. And we think it's the right thing for us to do, but it's us playing God, but we're not playing God of life. We're not even following the God of life. We're following the God of fear and death. Because we believe we're not good enough. What is the story of Satan, right? He wasn't good enough unless he could overthrow God. He had to play God. We see it all over in the stories of, the stories of good and evil. It's all the sci-fi's about good and evil. It's this battle between who's good enough. They're right, we're wrong, they're this, they're that. And it's a struggle for power and control from those who aren't good enough. The pain we have of the things that went on in our life is real. We do have those pains. But we will never heal those pains by trying to control the world outside of us. And I've said this before too. If I get bitten by a dog, I go to the hospital to have a doctor fix my wound. The dog wounded me, and I have a doctor fix the wound. I don't expect the dog who bit me to fix the wound he gave me. But for some reason with humans, since they have told us you have to do this and you have to do this in order to qualify, then when the human wounds us, and they wound us with that, we expect the human to heal us. We expect them to apologize. We expect them to do the right thing. They're not going to do the right thing. They're the ones who did the wrong thing that harmed us in the first place because of their bad ideas. And they don't realize they're harming people. They think they're doing what's right. And we can have debates till the cows come home about, should you spank or not a child? Everyone thinks what they're doing is right. Everyone does. Those against it do, those for it do. Because these are the conditions which you have to qualify in order to make sure that life goes the way you want it to, and you're doing the right thing because of what somebody told you or taught you. And it's all playing God. It doesn't allow us to have any inspiration in any given moment as to what to do or how to do it. We can never remain teachable so long as we have ideas that we have to accomplish in order to just be okay. It will never happen because we've already set a condition that we cannot meet. There is no amount of money on earth that will ever satisfy the need for money on earth for us to be okay. And then even when we amass great wealth, well, then others are constantly fighting us for it, constantly putting people into court to try to get your money. And you got a whole other battle on your hands, and you're never going to be okay because now, the whole world is just against you for even having it. Same thing with relationships. Well, we have to have, when my husband and I walk into a room, we have to be the most prominent power couple there. Otherwise, somehow we have failed and we haven't controlled our society and been the chieftains of our society. And couples get on each other about how, they have to improve their status. And it'll never be enough. And it's all playing God. And each and every one of us will play God. How many times do we tell somebody how to drive? Or that they were wrong for not driving the way we think they should? Simply because we think that what they're doing is going to cause a problem. It may cause a problem if we're doing that. That's why we're the ones thinking it. But we put it on other people because we're insecure unless the world is doing the things around us that we think it needs to do to manage my discomfort. You need to address me a certain way. Otherwise, you're abusing me. I'll just forever be a victim because I'm expecting someone else to show me the respect I don't have for myself. I don't need anybody to address me as anything. Dude, man, Ryan. It doesn't matter, jerk. They're not addressing me because of me. They're addressing me in the way they're addressing me because of themselves. Because of their relationship to me. And I'm okay with where I'm at today simply because I'm not trying to play God today, which once again it's a constant daily decision to make. But when I'm not trying to play God, amazing things happen. Suddenly, many things aren't required. Somebody wants to go out to eat. I don't care where we go. I'll find something there. Maybe there's nothing there I've ever had on the menu before, and I'll try something new and have a great experience. But if it's got to be where I need to go and I need to have it right now, and And well, I'm just making myself miserable and everybody else miserable because I'll go to this place and for some reason the food isn't that great that night for some reason. And then nothing turned out the way I needed it to turn out. And so therefore I'm unhappy. And I'm unhappy because I wasn't able to control the world. And I don't need to control the world unless I lack the power to do so. When you have power to control things, you have power to control things. You can control it. So the only people that need to control things are those who lack the power to control it. I mean, we've got to get to brass tacks here and just bottom line this stuff. I only need the world to be the way I want it to be because of my own fear. And everyone who seeks power does so because they lack power. Nobody with power seeks power. They have power. Nobody with control seeks control. They have control. And they don't need to control anyone else or anything else. And somebody with power doesn't need to take your power. Matter of fact, they got plenty of power. They'll give you some of theirs. Because they have power. So we play God in order to compensate for our lack. Because we've made the decision by playing God that it isn't what life is, what we are, is not good enough. We agreed with those who told us we weren't good enough. Now, some of us got beaten into having to agree, and that is not our fault. But later on in life, if I still have that emotional wound, I need to go to the doctor and get that wound fixed, rather than expecting those who wounded me to fix it, because they won't. Sometimes they're already dead. They can't fix it, and no one else can. And the problem is we drag these things into the rest of our relationships, and we think we're protecting our relationship from further abuse or further this or further that. And all we're actually doing is restricting another human being to obey our conditions so that we get what we think we need, and we ourselves become the emotional thief and abuser of them by not allowing them to be who they truly are and not allowing us to discover who they truly are so that maybe we can pick a better mate that's more suitable to us. We try to turn people into things that they're not. I like something I read in a book one time. It's like, if you want a dog and you get a cat, you can spend 20 years of your life trying to turn that cat into a dog, but in 20 years you'll still have a cat. No one has a right to change another human being. And no one has the right to change you either. Because the reality is you are good enough. That is why you're here. You are alive. We are living beings on several levels. We have a spiritual level, an emotional level, an intellectual level, and a physical level. And we exist because life made this. Are you alive? I have a fly that's alive. It keeps bugging me. It's because you were meant to be here. That fly was meant to be here. It serves a function out in the world. Bees serves a function out in the world. Grass serves a function out in the world. All for this planet. And we are here like dreamers, and we come up with concepts and dreams, and let's build a city, and I've got a great idea for a new material that'll make, buildings stronger and cars work faster. And we're the dreamers and the creators. And every single one of us on earth has the potential to be the dreamer and the creator. I've known people who, by intellectual standards are considered disabled. And they have amazing ideas about stuff I would have never considered ever before in my life. All of us are dreamers and creators. We all have ideas. And we don't need to control other people in order to achieve those ideas. I can't even control a fly, right? So I could sit here and getting mad that, well, life should be the way I want it to be. This fly should, die. And or I could stop playing God. Now I have every right to kill that fly in my house if I wish to. This is my house, right? As soon as I start telling other people what they need to do with the flies in their house, when they haven't asked me what they should do, I'm playing God. Any idea I have for what you should do is me playing God. And that's why, these kind of talks even are difficult because I myself can get very easily wrapped up in, oh, well, we humans need to do this and we humans need to do that. And it all depends on whether that's something you're looking for or not. Well, then maybe that kind of conversation is acceptable, right? But I constantly have to monitor how I talk because I can't come off that way either. That's not the point. The point is I would hope for all of us to be liberated, to be free, to realize we are enough. Now, of course, we want to be more. That's the whole point to dreaming and creating and everything else. So goals are okay, but who I am today and who you are today is enough for today. We don't need to qualify for anyone else because we're the ones that have to live with ourselves. We're the ones that are born, go through every single second of our lives, and we're the ones that one day have to face death. And we don't need to fight anyone about anything when it comes to how they relate to us. We can find people who just weasel. I just like that guy. That guy just likes me. We just hang out. We don't have to go, oh, the people who don't get together and drink beer are stupid. Those are those people that enjoy not getting together and drinking beer. There's nothing wrong with them either. That's the whole point. Every single person is already good enough. And when we have this idea that unless people are like us, they are not good enough, we are still playing God and we are still victims of our own self-judgment that we aren't good enough. Otherwise, we would not ever have to point out how someone else isn't good enough. No one who is good enough wants to lower anyone else on earth. They want to elevate them. They want to raise them up. Now, I'm not, once again, not talking about behavior. There's behavior that is not good. Like, hey, that behavior needs to stop. But we look at people as what's wrong with them? Why aren't they like me? Why can't they see how wrong they are? We constantly play God, which is precisely the story of Satan. So in every area of our life where we play God, that's where each and every one of us can go, okay, why am I playing God in this area? Why do I need for the people at work to treat me a certain way? Otherwise, I have a bad day. And I'm not saying that people are annoying. Their selfishness and self-centeredness is extremely annoying. It is. And that's behavior. And we can look at behavior and go, I don't want to be around that. And do the best we can to get away from it. But if we start thinking that that person just, isn't worth anything and why can't they do what I think? Once again, we're playing God and we're just going to continually be a victim. I don't try to change the bear in the woods. He's a bear. He's doing what bears are supposed to be doing. And other people on earth are doing what they think they're supposed to be doing. And all of us, on one level or another, play God. And when we don't play God, life becomes free. We start to enjoy things again. We start to see the potential in things. We start to realize our own self-worth. That something about life is so great and so wonderful and so powerful. You can call it God. You can call it, that I was somehow formed and put here and given this experience where I get to experience wonderful things also, good things also. Good foods, good drinks, good fellowship, good friends, beautiful places all over the earth to explore and to see, beautiful sensations to feel, holding somebody's hand for the first time, kissing somebody for the first time, kissing them for the 4,000th. There's wonderful things on this earth. And all of it becomes dynamic. Because we're not judging the quality of it anymore. We're experiencing it. We're not judging whether it qualifies for my acceptance. Before we even get there, we're trying it and experiencing it and going, oh, well, I really love this and I love that and I love this part I didn't really like so much. And we have a, clear understanding of how to move forward, like especially if it's a food. It's like I like this item and that item and this item. I didn't really like that one. Well, now we know never to order that item again. But we're not going, oh, the chef should have made it my way. And why didn't he add garlic to this? It should have garlic. We're not constantly arguing and fighting and in conflict with everyone and everything about how life needs to be for me to be happy. We can be happy without life changing at all. We can go to the doctor and heal our wounds. We don't have to wait for anybody. We intuitively know that when we get hurt by anything else. And we can examine our wounds. We can examine our pain and say, I have this pain, I have this wound, and I need to go do something about it. I need to go find the help that I need. And all of those helps in one way or the other. Well, like when I turn my arm over to the doctor, I'm not playing God. I have given him the right to fix my arm. He's the greater authority there in that moment, isn't he? And I get the relief. And he says, I recommend these, take some Tylenol for the pain or this, that, the other thing. Okay, yeah, I'll do that. And we do that. And the pain goes away. Or I'm going to shoot you with some Novocaine and we'll be able to get through this without you suffering too badly. And we go, okay, great, yeah. And so there we're not trying to control the scenario. And by not trying to control the scenario, we're actually given options that makes us feel better and heal quicker and all that other kind of stuff. But with our emotional pain, our spiritual pain, we try to control others to compensate for it. We try to get others to pay for it. And we bring that into our relationships. And we expect our husbands and wives and everybody else to carry the burden and the weight of the damage we have that other people did that we still carry because we're waiting for someone else to go fix it instead of taking responsibility for ourselves and going to the doctor ourselves because we're playing God. And where we're playing God, there's no other God. So we have to stop playing God in order to go to whatever we think God is. Maybe it's science. Maybe it's the universe. Maybe it's Jesus Christ. Maybe it's God the Father. But because each and every single human being on this planet is going to have a different idea of what God is. But we all have an idea of something that is the highest authority, the greatest power, the strongest this, where life came from, whatever it is, mathematics. Life came from mathematics. Okay, trust in mathematics, whatever it takes, right? Stop trying to control the outcomes of things, and life gets better. It becomes a discovery again like it was when we were children. And of course, we'll find things that we don't like. And we'll find things we love. I love pizza. I want pizza. And we'll enjoy the things we love more and stop spending so much time trying to get other people to stop making the things we don't like. Because the more I try to get others to change the way I want them to be, the more time of my life gets taken up from me being able to enjoy the things that I do like and do love. This one step idea to stop playing God will manifest changes in our lives almost immediately. Little small things. It changes our perspective. It gives us a different perspective when we ask ourselves, where am I playing God? Instead of just being a human being, instead of being myself. And all we have to look at is the areas of our lives where we're in pain. Now, some people will never wish to. They just want so badly for somebody to pay for their pain that they will never let go of their pain. And they'll make every single person they ever meet pay for the pain of what happened to them. Because it takes a great deal of humility and acceptance of self to stop playing God. It means our reliance must be on something greater than ourselves. And there is no human and nothing on this earth greater than you. All human beings are equal to us. Equal. There's no, in value of life, all human beings are equal in value. And in no other way are we equal. Some are better musicians, some are worse musicians, some are good at math, some are bad at math, some are tall, some are short, some are this, some are... That's the whole point, is to have a diversity of beautiful and wonderful things in life. And the more and more people stop playing God, the less sick society becomes, because the whole idea in needing to do it in the first place was to compensate for lack because of fear. And it is completely unnecessary and will always keep us trapped in a system of control designed to tell you that you're not good enough, and to convince you and keep you convinced to yourself that you are not. We don't have to protest. We don't have to force people to accept us the way we are, because we accept ourselves the way we are. I don't need to flaunt the way I am either to anybody, because I myself accept the way I am. And that means I accept the way they are too. Otherwise, I'm lying to myself. This has just been in the hopes of being an introduction to the idea to stop playing God. And only you can determine in your own life where it applies and where it doesn't. So no one can tell you exactly how to do those types of things, or what matters first, or what's the most important, or anything else like that, because you already matter. So it's where you're looking is good enough. When I was 20, certain things were important to me that when I was 30, I laughed at, and other things were important to me. And same when I was 40. So wherever you're at in life today is where you're at. It's not going to change just because somebody thinks that you should be more mature or less mature or greater or stronger or faster or quicker. It's where you're at. And if you accept where you're at and go, okay, this is where I'm at, now you can just well, you know what? I want to grow. I want to remain teachable. but I'm going to accept that this is where I'm at. And you can accept that it's okay, and you can grow and remain teachable and learn and become greater and stronger and wiser and freer and all that stuff by accepting where you are today instead of playing God and telling yourself you should be something else. You should be better. You should make more money. You know, but you can, ask yourself things like, why am I so lazy today? And sometimes it'll be completely acceptable. You know what? I'm just kind of got burnout. I'm going to be lazy today. And other times it'll be like, because I actually don't think I'll ever really achieve anything because I'm just not good enough. So why even try? Right? But you're the only person who knows what's going on within inside of you and because of the events in your life. So only you can evaluate that, and it's only for you then to be honest with yourself about it and your fellows. And because if you tell your fellows about it, they'll you're going to find out a lot of people are like, "Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm going through that too, man. How do we get over this?" Okay, let's stop playing God. First of all, let's stop playing God, and then the answers will come. It is literally the foundation of every way we humans have tried to improve our lives. The answer in every philosophy and every spirituality and every religion and every psychology is always boils down to the same thing. Stop playing God, and all the answers will come to you. I don't know how I overlooked something this simple for so long. But once it clearly, I could see it. It's like, oh yeah, nothing I've done worked. Why didn't it work? Because I set all the conditions which had to be met because of what had happened to me in life. And I became worse in compensating. I made everybody pay for my pain. And I don't need to make anybody pay for my pain. I need to go to a doctor. Just like I would if a dog bit me. I'll probably have many, many talks about this. I don't know. But I just wanted to get it out there for today that I believe everything that we could ever do in life that will bring us all the answers that we need ourselves, the ones we need, right? Like I need certain ones, you need certain ones. The ones you need will all come to us if we just stop playing God. And then from there, we'll discover ways in which to do that. And some of us will find ourselves going to churches, and some of us will find ourselves in psychologists' offices. And now everything else just becomes a tool in how to achieve or how to practice this idea in our lives every day to get there, instead of us thinking the tools themselves are the answer, because the tools themselves aren't the answer. They're just the tools, right? Um, you know, think of a bicycle, right? The wheel isn't the whole bike. So the tools isn't the answer. That's not the bike ride we enjoy. What we enjoy is liberty, and liberty comes from not playing God. It seems ironic, but there's nothing you need to control. And when you don't need to control anything, you are actually given a great more control in your life to live how you wish. And you don't need power to exert against others and to exert out in the world. And as soon as you stop trying to exert power on others and the rest of the world, the more power you have suddenly to affect the world and influence the world. without struggle in a positive way. And it all starts from the simple idea that we stop playing God. And instead, we awaken to whatever God, the God of your understanding, has to reveal to you that hitherto couldn't be revealed to you because you were God. And you were playing God, not only in your life, but in everybody else's life. And the God you were playing was the God of fear, of lack, of not enough, of having to overcompensate. Your pain is okay. We're not taking any pain away. We're not denying anything that ever happened to anybody. But that is the very reason to go and get it fixed. That's the very, the truth is it's all up to you. Since the other people can't fix you, that's a good thing because they're not going to anyway. It means it's up to you. And you don't have to fight everyone and everything anymore to make your life right. You can make your life right. You can go to the doctor and say, I have a wound right here. It's hurt me my whole life. And whatever that doctor is, could be prayer, meditation, could be a spiritual society. Doesn't really matter. It's up to you. You will find the answers because you're no longer trying to control things in order to compensate for the lie that you're not good enough. You're so good and so good enough that you're actually alive and here right now. What greater proof do you need as to your importance to all of existence? You exist. And so does everything else in existence. It exists. Therefore, i.e., everything matters. I love you guys. I hope that's helpful to somebody. It certainly is helpful to me. I'll talk to you soon.